Thank you, Warden. We'll see you in 2 weeks here, as we say here at Harambe, Twin Day. And let's go. Well, gentlemen, friends, thanks for joining us here at the Harambe Wildlife Preserve. Thanks for choosing Kilimanjaro Safari Tours for all your safari expeditions. Quick couple of safety reminders here. Please make sure to maintain your hands, arms, feet, legs inside the vehicle at all times. For your health and safety, please continue to wear those face coverings as well. If you have any high-tech cameras, cell phones, DSLRs, GoPros on board, please be cautious while we're out here. We may pass through some very rough and rugged terrain. If you accidentally drop an electronic, I unfortunately can't stop this vehicle to retrieve it for you. And a big welcome here to the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. We've been established since 1998 in an effort to protect animals from poaching and extinction out there in the wild. Our first stop in is the Ituri Forest. Animals that live in the forest section tend to be much more reclusive. Your first animal sighting is to the right. That's the Okapi. It has some very prominent black and white leg markings, which can confuse most people to think that they're looking at the zebra or a relative of a zebra. This animal is actually only related to the giraffe, and that's because they share very similar cranial structures. So the bones inside of the head are very similar to that of a giraffe. On a phylogenetic tree, they'd be sister taxa to one another. They have some pretty long tongues that can reach lengths of 16 to 18 inches long. They can clean their own eyelids and lick their own eyeballs. The ways in which that they communicate is too low for the ear to actually perceive any of those sound waves, so we do need technological equipment to tune in. Be on the lookout for some of those black rhinos here in the Ituri Forest. They're quite territorial, for those reasons solitary as well. Black and white rhinos are poached, their horns on top of their heads. On your right hand side, you guys will find greater kudu females, very gentle, pretty, timid, natural colors to their coats. They can blend right into the surrounding areas. Only males have horns, so they display sexual dimorphism. Top of the hill, you'll also find some of the bongos, known as the ghost of the forest, seen as it resides deeply within, oftentimes hardly ever seen. On your left-hand side, you'll find the saddle-billed stork. You're finding both a male and a female. You can't see them from afar here, but if you were to hone in on the eyes, females have light gray feathers. Vibrant yellow eyes, and males have dark brown eyes. Their wingspan can stretch anywhere from 7 to 9 feet long. 7 feet long is about the same size as this canopy right up above your heads here. And it does look like the warden wants us to enter poly here, which does mean very slowly, so we'll very slowly enter through the second half of the forest. If you can't easily see the animal sighting, please make sure not to stand up. I have to pause the tour experience, and then I have to call you out for it, and it's awkward for you. It's not really awkward for me, but just want to make sure that everyone has a pretty smooth and easy time while we're out here. Lower right-hand side, you guys are going to find the Nile hippopotamus. Nile hippos sleep a large portion of the day. If you can't easily see it farthest left, once again, please make sure not to stand up. You're going to see it to your left. There's a pretty large pool area. Hopefully we'll find the rest of the hippos. But again, they sleep a large portion of the day. Hippos are classified as a nocturnal species. They're also some of the most dangerous animals in the world because they're very territorial, and hippos unfortunately weigh up to 5,500 pounds. So putting all that pressure and weight on another animal can be very dangerous. Looks like the animal care team is conducting a feeding session with the larger white birds, and larger white birds only. Those are the pink-backed pelicans. And groupings of 2 or more pelicans are referred to as a pod. Because they don't have sweat glands on a very hot day, pelicans will bring a pod of their spine up and out of the mouth, directly cooling down the spine to regulate internal body temperatures. And their feathers don't turn pink. They're not flamingos. It's just the back. It's a pretty good indicator that they are ready for the breeding season. We're going to turn onto this bridge. It's going to squeak and creak a little. No worries, it carries up to 4 tons, but down below you'll find the Nile crocodiles there. Nile crocodiles are the largest of the crocodilian species. They can grow to be 16 to 20 feet in length. They can also eat animals much larger than their body size. That's because they have very powerful jaws to do so. About 3,000 pounds of pressure per square inch bite, but in contrast, they are very gentle with their youngings. They have what's called a throat sac, which is exactly what it sounds like, pretty much just a pouch towards the back of the throat for the Nile crocodiles to carry those eggs. going to quickly work us out of the Ituri forest. We're going to start taking off through the trail. It's going to flatten out and then take us out through the overlook, which happens to be the highest point to look out from here on the reserve. It's pretty beautiful, so if you do want to take any video footage or photography, I highly recommend that you snap a couple of pictures. My favorite desktop picture is from this part of the reserve. Before we enter the savannah, it's important to highlight the plant kingdom because most animals are heterotrophs, meaning that they don't provide their own food source, so they depend on these autotrophs like the very large trees, angiosperms, flowering plants. But this tree here to your right, baobab tree, is also referred to as the tree of life because it can hold up to 1,000 gallons of water in its trunk section, and water is pretty important. Make sure to hydrate today, especially my adults on board that may be consuming adult beverages. It may be pretty hot, so make sure that you balance it out with a glass of water after the tour experience. But for elephants, that tree is quite important as it can allow them to puncture through the trunk, take the quick sip of water that it needs. We're going to start going in pretty slow here. See what animals you can find at a first glance. I've already identified 3 different types of animal species here. We're going to start here with the giraffe. I have plenty of facts to work us around the entire loop. Again, giraffes are going to be heterotrophs. They're dependent on the plant kingdom to supply them with organic compounds and food to conduct those body mechanisms. And if you look here to your right, one of the stringy things that hangs from these trees is going to be the Spanish moss. No true root system, so they do need the actual tree to grow and expand. They tend to fall closer with gravity pulling them down. It does allow them to come closest to the giraffe. As soon as giraffes get a chance to reach it, they just yank it right off. So this does give you a pretty good visual of how tall our adult giraffes will stand. Of course, the tongue will extend about 12 inches out of the mouth. Remember, they're related to the Okapi. So it's an additional foot that they have in height there. But it does go to show where these animals like to spend a big part of their day. I'm going to quickly break from talking about giraffes to look to our left here. You're going to find the African wild dog, not hyenas, African wild dogs. Because African wild dogs morphology does look a little bit more like the domesticated canine dog, but they are not a domesticated species. I know you guys are going to start looking at the giraffe here to the right. Just make sure not to whistle, tiss, or call out. Looks like she didn't want to be too close to the trail, and that's perfectly fine. Passing the green truck, you guys will find the Ankoli cow. Then there's the sable antelope, and then some zebras here. I'm going to break it down for you, reference your animal spotting guides so you know what animal I'm talking about. The Ankoli cow is also referred to as the Watusi cow because they were first domesticated by the Watusi African tribe, so they're honored with the second name. Their official common name is the Ankoli Watusi. And they are some of the most prized domesticated animals to some African tribes to this day. The more Ankoli cow that you have, the more wealth you can visibly display. To your left here, you're going to see 2 specific characteristics. Flap on that zebra, right by its neck, and its stripe pattern that stops right before its bellies. And that's because the dewlap is pretty prominent on the zebra. It helps them thermoregulate and cool down. Stripe pattern stops before their bellies, but all zebras are black with white stripes, and that's because they all have black snouts. The baby giraffe is here to your right-hand side. The embryo develops in an amniotic sac within the mother, so giraffes do give a live birth. They also have mammary glands, and because of that, they are under the mammal family. When a baby giraffe is first born, its first welcome into the world is a 6-foot drop out of its mother. Makes a very prominent fall so that it can burst out of the amniotic sac but also break the umbilical cord. Baby giraffes aren't fully developed like the adult giraffe, which has some very long and powerful legs. They tend to use them as they kick, larger predators, but baby giraffes, their best line of defense is running away from danger. So within the first hour of life, giraffes will start to stand and be able to run. Speaking of speed for giraffes, they can typically hit 30 to 35 miles per hour, but most people don't specify that's only in small spurts. They don't travel longer distances at 30 to 35 miles per hour. They only do so 10 miles per hour if they want to travel the longer distance. And as giraffes move, you'll notice it's a pretty weird movement. They have to bring their neck forward to move the body back. It's a very interesting way in which they travel. But that's because they have some very long necks, which if we hone in on the vertebra of a giraffe, they have 7 vertebrae in the neck, which is the exact same count that humans do have so as well. Considering that that neck is going to extend over 4 feet in length in the adult giraffe, that vertebrae is going to be much, much larger than ours, but at least it shows a similarity in the vertebra that we both have. Some of their exterior anatomical body parts, you'll see very long tails. One single strand of hair is actually 10 times thicker than human hair. Collectively, they swing it and swat it to hit some of the insects that may be bothering them, especially the yellow fly season coming up. Those females are pretty mean with humans and animals alike, but the giraffe is pretty well adapted to swat those yellow flies. It looks like we have a brief pause here of animals. No animals quite just yet. Awesome. It looks like there are some elephants here coming up to your right. The living relative, the extant species to the African elephant is going to be the Asian elephant. The extinct relative is going to be the mammoth. We'll talk about that in just 1 second, why it's important. Looking to your left, you're going to see our larger male farthest right. He has a pretty colorful tush and a very vibrant face. That's the easiest way to display the difference between males and females with that sexual dimorphism. Males are much more colorful. These characteristics that females will look for. And those that have better luck with the breeding season can pass those genes from one generation to the next. Now we talked about the African elephant's living and extinct relatives. Notice from the front part of his face you'll see a trunk hang forward. African elephants have a little bit more of a prehensile tip. The Asian elephant does not. So for African elephants it's much easier to pull on any branches and leaves, tall grass. The trunk is one of the more powerful parts of its body. You can actually find 150,000 muscle units in one single trunk. Comparing that to the human anatomy, does anyone know how many muscles we have in our body typically? It's going to be in the high hundreds. Any guesses? 500, pretty close, I'll take it. It's one more than that, 600 muscles typically is what you'll find. For African elephants, that trunk will have 150,000 muscle units. And that's only considering one part of its body. For the elephant, it does let them suction sand, which can be blown onto its back, suction water, which they drink up to 50 gallons of water in a day. They can also use it to bathe themselves, they use it to socialize. But more importantly, African elephants are usually targeted for their tusks. You'll see tusk markings here, lower right and to the left. Tusks are the extensions to the incisor. You have incisors as well. So it's basically like teeth to them. And tusks will start to appear after the age of 2 years old. Continue to develop up until they're about 35, which is half of the elephant's lifetime, as its lifetime expectancy is about 60 to 65 years out in the wild. Tusker elephants are those elephants specifically whose incisors have grown past their elbows, so they have some pretty long tusks. And at this time, we currently do not have any tusker elephants on the reserve for you to view. But you do find some females here to the left. Notice the lots of similar stuff that we've been talking about. Using that trunk, suctioning water to bathe itself, splashing it on its body on a very hot day. The elephants towards the back are using their trunk to access food. The tusk will help them also tap into food sources like that red clay pit wall that we saw. They use those tusks to kind of grind and move dry red clay. They also socialize with those tusks and tend to defend themselves from larger predators. The elephant towards the middle is going to be the older female, the one closest to the elephant we just saw towards the back. And the easiest giveaway is that her body size is about the same size as the adult female elephant, but her tusks haven't fully developed. The baby elephant, well, she's the smallest one in the group. That's a pretty easy giveaway as well. We'll start to hold here just a couple of seconds. This is a pretty cool photo up here to your left if you've been taking video footage or photography. Greater flamingos are not a migrating species. It's a common question that we get. Are we ever afraid that flamingos will fly away one day and no longer be on the island? Well, flamingos are not a migrating species as long as they're provided a consistent food source and clean waters. They hardly ever travel anywhere else. On the platform here, this is exactly what makes it out to the black market as a symbol of status or wealth. For obvious reasons, not displaying coats, but don't forget about those animals like cheetahs, lions, zebras, giraffes, bontoboks. Poached, skinned, peeled. Some are made into household items like rugs, others into actual fur coats that you can wear. And then there's also animals like ostriches, Nile crocodiles, poached, skinned, peeled for its skin specifically, desiccated, treated, and made into some small leather goods. Our friends over at Louis Vuitton and their current collection does have the $3,000 ostrich wallet made available for you to purchase online and in select stores. And it is true the fashion industry is one of the biggest reasons why poaching is still very popular. They do offer the most reward in exchange for the wildlife species remains. This is baby Ranger here, male white rhino, top of the hill to the left, and her mom at the front. Towards the back left, we're going to quickly see some cheetahs there. Cheetahs are the fastest land mammals in the world. They typically hit anywhere from 60 to 65 miles per hour. Much like giraffes, in short spurts, they don't run up to top speeds for longer than a third of the mile. And when they do so with their claws out. Cheetahs have non-retractable claws, which is pretty interesting because some domesticated feline cats undergo the process of declawing them. For feline cats, it's important for them to use those claws. It helps them gain control as they run up to those top speeds, gain balance with their locomotion, and it also helps them catch their prey. We're going to start slowing down just a little bit. We've entered some larger feline cat territory. Some of the most popular feline cats like lions and cheetahs are endangered out in the wild. There's less than 7,000 cheetahs left in the world, less than 20,000 lions left in the world. And Disney has started taking action here to protect the pride and protect some of the other wildlife species. We're more than likely going to find lions here towards the front because this is the area where it receives the least amount of shade at this time of day. Because lions sleep 18 to 20 hours of the day, that classifies them as a nocturnal species. They're going to want to sleep in areas that's going to be cool. It's like me asking you to put on a fur coat and fall asleep in the sun. Of course, you're going to be reluctant and say, no, absolutely not. But these animals are pretty well adapted and are very smart to know that when they sleep, they like it where it's pretty shady. On the rocks, you'll find two girls. These are sisters, not related to the male lion at all whatsoever. And you'll see some of the padded paws on the male lion there. Through the use of their padded paws, lions will silently creep up on prey. It's actually the females that do the majority of the hunting, while male lions stay behind protecting their little cubs. Because we're seeing some pretty large tunnels here. All the way back left, closest to the fence, is the male warthog. And somewhere closer up here, maybe you'll find one of the females. Looks like she might be towards the center here. But warthogs are in the same family group as the pig. Two different types of tusks. Larger ones are used to burrow. The small ones, they have to fend off any predators. Very sharpened, almost razor-like. Again, we're seeing a group of white rhinos, and two or more, they're called a crash. Their name comes from the mistranslation of the word white in reference to their wide mouths. White rhinos don't have a prehensile lip, so it does limit where they can search for food. It's typically close and low to the ground, which is why geographically they're in larger open plains. The ostrich here to your right is a female with a dimorphism there. Males have dark black feathers, females have light gray feathers. They're the largest and therefore heaviest bird in the world. Some pretty large ostrich eggs. One single ostrich egg is the equivalent to 24 chicken eggs. A full-grown human could stand on an ostrich egg and it would not crack. Ostriches are flightless aviary species, but it's said that they descend from an ancient relative that could fly, so they lost the ability of flight as they adapted to their current day environments. The female ostriches do participate in communal nesting, so females will come close together, they'll bring their eggs, they take turns and are nice enough to help watch the nest as other females go off to search for food. But if the leader of the group, which has placed her egg right towards the center of that communal nest, feels like a predator is close by and her egg is threatened, she'll actually kick one of the other female's eggs out of the nest to protect her own. Well, the last little section here is the Magadi Glen. This is the warden's new home. And the newest species to the reserve is the domesticated Nigerian dwarf goat. Relatively small in size, doesn't require much space like other livestock. Definitely prized for its milk to be sold on the market. Helps boost the economy, also helps distract from selling coats, tusks, and horns for profit. As we start to exit out of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, the current local time is 10:08 a.m. You still have plenty of time to explore what's left in the park. If you would like to check out some more animals, there's the Maharaja Jungle Trek over in Asia and the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail here in Africa. Both of those attractions are self-guided tour experiences, so if you have any mobility items such as wheelchairs, scooters, strollers, ECVs, walkers, canes, please bring them in with you. It should facilitate your travels while you're out there. If I do have any wilderness explorers on board that are collecting badges along their way here and would like to collect their safari badge, page 15 in your yellow Wilderness Explorer booklet does let you earn that safari badge. The code word that you need is SIMBA1. That'll be SIMBA, the number 1. I do take a moment here to double check your rows before we dock. Looks like the warden is going to clear us in. And to our friends here in Harambe, we never like to say goodbye as we find it much too sad and far too final. So we'll say Kwaherini, folks. That means to go well. We hope you guys all today go well, go wild, and have a great time here at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Thanks for joining us.